now. So thank you very much for joining us. So I suppose the best place to start is probably a good afternoon and welcome to this quarter's exceptional e-commerce event from whilst our events are usually face-to-face, we didn't really want to break from our theme of helping others become exceptional e-commerce. So we've taken this opportunity to run our first ever virtual event. Our events are normally focused around a topical area of e-commerce. We've covered fast-growing e-commerce businesses in the past, and we've covered Amazon. What we normally focus on is our guest speakers sharing their stories as to how they've built their own e-commerce businesses. I think with COVID-19 pretty much throwing the world into unprecedented times in every way possible, there could only really be one topic that we covered in this month's event, and surprise, surprise, that's COVID-19. I think whilst COVID has pretty much driven a bus through traditional retail for the last 8 to 12 weeks, it's also fundamentally changed the way that people shop, and as a result, driven huge online growth for most businesses. So instead of our usual event format today, we've invited 3 leaders from the world of retail whose businesses have been affected by COVID to join us in the Q&A session and what we normally call a fireside chat to hear their stories and find out what they think retail will look like after the lockdown is over. But before we go on to introduce our guests, I'd like to just quickly introduce the business VentureForge to you guys, for those that don't know about us, and just give you a very quick background as to what we do and why we put on these events. For those that don't know us, we're an e-commerce partner to brands and retailers, and we help them grow their sales quicker online. We work across the full spectrum of e-commerce services, and for us that's strategy through to e-commerce site design and build, growth marketing and Amazon management. We're lucky to have clients that include high street names such as Matalan and Gift Universe, high growth challenger brands such as 4 Beauty Group and Cheeky Chompers, and many more who are all looking for one thing: profitable online sales growth. If any of your businesses have been challenged or equally see opportunities for growth through COVID, we'd be more than happy to have a chat and a conversation and offer some impartial advice to you. But that's enough about us. Let's get back to the event and why everybody's given up a little bit of time today. We've already invited got some great questions from people prior to this event, which we'll be asking the panel shortly. But if you've got any more questions that you'd like to ask, please just have a look down at the bottom of your Zoom window. I'd like to tell you exactly where, but it differs whether you're on a laptop, desktop, tablet, as we found out on our family pub quizzes on Zoom every weekend. But somewhere down the bottom will be a Q&A button, and if you want to ask any extra questions through there, we'll get to those towards the end of today's event. Today we're fortunate to be joined by 3 exceptional brands who we're really proud to have as VentureForge clients. On today's call, we've got Shelley Martin, who's the founder and CEO of the 4 Beauty Group. We've got Julie Wilson, founder and CEO of Cheeky Chompers, and Paul Kraftman, the founder and chairman of Gift Universe. Good afternoon, guys, and thank you very much for joining us.
Afternoon.
Afternoon.
If we could first start off with a few introductions, would you mind just each of you quickly introducing yourselves and tell us a little bit about your business and what it looked like before COVID?
Who do you want to start?
Over to you, Paul.
Okay. Hi, my name is Paul Kraftman. My business is Gift Universe. Our main retail brand is Mankind. We're a multi-channel retail business. We also have a wholesale distribution business as well, selling to other retailers. Prior to COVID, we had 63 bricks and mortar retail stores trading. We opened additional retail stores at Christmas, about 30 typically. Obviously have an online presence, and we have we sell through Amazon as well. It's been around a long time, about 15 years, and bricks and mortar has been the kind of core part of the business, with e-com lagging behind, really being not really performing as perhaps I would have liked it to as a proportion of our business, as part of our expertise. So obviously with the COVID crisis, things changed pretty rapidly. We now have all stores shuttered, and our only source of income is e-com. But we've seen such substantial growth, it was completely unpredicted. I mean, we obviously expected to be able to move some sales online, but with our low-key presence, we're not expecting what came to us. So we've seen incredible growth across the online space. We're talking about 400% or 500% increase compared to last year. So for us, it's been a big kind of transformational piece to kind of get our act together around that. It's kind of Christmas kind of sales levels, really. So we've been there before, but a lot of repurposing and change had to be made. So that's where we are at the moment. I mean, our view is that once bricks and mortar gets open again, we're not going to keep at these levels, but it won't go back to previous levels either. So we reckon over 2 months, we've probably achieved about 2 to 3 years worth of kind of growth curve, kind of a leap in that period. So some good things have come out of this.
Thanks, Paul. Should I give a bit of background to your business?
Yeah, for Beauty Group, so we are based in Belfast. We are brand owners of 3 brands, so He She Tanning, Fantastic Tanning, and also Skinition, which is our skincare brand. And we do all the sales, marketing, distribution from here. As a company, we deal with many different channels, and different channels for each brand as well. So quite a few complexities, but as an overview, we have distribution and wholesale for He She and Skinition. We have an international market for He She. We do that through distribution and through partners. We have Amazon, we have our own D2C websites, and then we also have direct to salons here in Ireland. So we have our own sales team into the salon channel, and then we also have a retail channel for the likes of pharmacies and department stores, etc. So yeah, more or less covering everything right across the range. And pre-COVID-19 up to the middle of March, we were absolutely flying and doing brilliantly after, you know, turning the business around and looking at things very differently from an Amazon perspective and a D2C perspective, which has stood us in good stead. We are again seeing growth on those channels. I guess April was magnificent, again 200-300% up. May was down on that, but again June is looking reasonably well. So for us as a sector within beauty, skincare, people are still using their skincare products, which is fantastic. Tanning can be a little bit different. As I said, April was fantastic. May was down a little. The weather does have a bit of a play with self-tan. So good weather, really, really good weather. Sometimes it's not so good. It's nice to have the happy medium because people still want to get their clothes off as such. But yeah, salons are trickling through, which is probably our biggest surprise. Those that are using social media and those that are using e-commerce are still trading. So that's been a real pleasant surprise. Retail, it's zero, literally gone. However, here in Northern Ireland, we are starting to open back up again. So as of last week, some retail shops have started to open up again. And the report last week was that they didn't expect the level of people through the doors that there has been. And more or less, it was almost as business as usual for the start of June. So, but they are talking about front of house being down somewhere between 50% and 80% on their retail sales. And even some of those guys, some of our customers are actually pivoting over into e-commerce and have seen, figures such as 14 times their turnover online, which has transformed their thinking on e-commerce as well. So yeah, just really different pictures right across the board. Challenges, but at the same time, opportunities there, which is good.
Interesting. There's some common things there. How about you, Julie? Tell us a little bit about Cheeky Chompers and what your business looks like.
So I'm a co-founder of Cheeky Chompers, and Cheeky Chompers design and manufacture innovative baby products. Each of our products are designed with an intuitive twist, designed to help make parents' lives a little bit easier. We have a range of about 16 different products, ranging from teething products right through to support products that go into multi-channels as well. So we have in the retail space, we've got opportunities around companies like John Lewis we're in Jojo Mamas, we're in the White Company, Bulls, and across that we're in pharmacy and Lloyd's Pharmacy. So we have lots of gifts. So our products actually meet a lot of needs, and we were doing well prior to COVID-19. And we have 3 key routes to market. 60% of our sales are through international distributors overseas, and 30% through retailers. And then there was only 10% of our sales traditionally have been direct to consumer. but that has been changed dramatically, obviously, since COVID, and our online sales are seeing huge growth, similar 200-300%, and growing, and not just our direct to consumer through cheekychompers.com, but also through our Amazon platform and our new partnership actually with Venture Forge, which is making a huge difference for us. And we've been on Amazon, but not really performing on Amazon, I would say, until now. But also all of our international partners, their global e-commerce growth is amazing as well. So we're seeing complete drop in sales of traditional retailers worldwide, but real growth in international e-commerce growth on the platform. So an interesting time for everyone, hey?
So some really interesting and common challenges there. It feels like you've all got businesses that are exposed in pretty much every channel possible from across all of you there. How have you managed this big shift in the business? You've seen this great online growth, which is really positive, but I suspect from what I know about your businesses, you're still very heavily exposed to retail and traditional channels. How have you managed that shift? I'm assuming the growth in e-commerce hasn't offset the decline in retail. How have you managed to navigate that and face into the positives and grow the e-commerce sales and keep the businesses buoyant at the same time?
Well, I think for us, what we've done is really look at enhancing our e-commerce or our online presence. So for us, it's been about professionalizing it all and actually trying to deliver the experience that we would deliver traditionally through retailers, but online. And we're only at the start of that, but we're seeing big differences. Our digital assets we've tried to enhance. We're trying to enhance the improvement of experience of video content and the things so people can actually get a feel for what our products can do to support them and to help them. So that's been something we've had to do. We've obviously had to increase our fulfillment capability, which is a real challenge at the moment, given we've got social distancing. So actually the traditional office that we've had with 5 different offices connected has become more of a fulfillment center so that people can be in separate rooms. And we need to make sure that, I think the demand is in getting products as quickly as they can, with as efficiently as you can, and easily to describe so that they know exactly what they're buying. And I think that's important, that whole kind of journey of purchase to delivery. And I think we're having to reel up our game on that, and ultimately we'll need to look for external partners to do that.
I suppose that's quite a healthy challenge, almost forced by the situation. But actually, you're saying there really it's kind of forced you to really up your game in e-commerce and try and grab as much of that growth as you can do.
Yeah, exactly.
One of the things you talked about earlier, George, before we all kind of came on the call, you said one of the things that surprised you or that you've noticed in your business was this big shift towards gifting. I suppose kind of opening that question up to everybody, what has surprised you positively about the whole COVID situation and the impact on your businesses?
Well, yeah, just on the gifting side for us, I mean, we've always sold gifts, and actually our products are premium products and the kind of the perfect kind of gift products for a range of different markets. But we found, interestingly, the kind of grandparent market has been a real growth for us, because I think with the social distancing and the lockdown, people haven't been able to see their new babies or the newborn babies and things. So lots of our gift boxes are coming very personalized from grandparents and gifts. So gifting's been something that, again, it's something we're learning and we're improving on, and we'll need to speak to Paul about how he's doing in his gifting, but that's very much been a growth for us as to how people want personalised gifts with the personalised notes and again, sending it to people that they can't currently visit.
How about you, Paul and Shelley? Anything that's caught you positively by surprise?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that's driven the growth that kind of caught us a bit by surprise was we are primarily a gifting retail business, which is why traditionally outside of the kind of key Christmas gifting time where our turnover tends to be quite suppressed, but a huge increase in kind of self-purchase, all the kind of fun stuff that we do, games, jigsaws. We just did a small range of jigsaws that's now much bigger, as you could imagine, because there's a huge growth in jigsaws. So all this kind of stuff to do at home, stuff to do with the kids, so games, jigsaws, homebrew beer making kits, all sorts of stuff, activity as well. We do some build your own models and things like that, which people can, it's called a construct and create range, and it's something you can do with your kids to build a robot and all this kind of stuff. Huge growth in those kind of areas, all for self-purchase. So a lot of it's related to the kind of lockdown requirement, really. We need stuff to keep ourselves busy and entertained. but it's great we've actually managed to tap into that purchase and that self-purchase market, and that's really, really exciting for us. Yeah, that's the kind of biggest kind of benefit that we've seen, people buying stuff for themselves rather than just for other people. So a little bit different to what Julia's saying, kind of the other way around. We're actually now moving into our biggest gifting period outside of Christmas, which is Father's Day. And we have seen since we've been promoting, we started our campaign very early this year, because I said, look, we had time to think about it and start owning the space. So we kind of started the promotion about 5-6 weeks ago, more low key, but just to start getting ourselves up there on Google, ranked for it, getting links, etc., and it seems to be paying off. So you're up against much bigger figures, like for like, with the Father's Day growth. And I expected that to be harder to challenge, but actually we're doing even better. So we're getting the Father's Day gifting business, but also still the self-purchase underlying as well. So that's worked quite well. I mean, one of the big benefits we've had is that my commercial team now, this is our only business. All we have is our own e-commerce site and Amazon. So that's all anyone's focused on. There's planning still, because we're expecting the stores to open. My planning teams are still doing that. But the trading operation now is all focused purely on this one trading platform. So I've got this resource applied to it in a way that's never been there before. So my trading meetings on a Monday, which we still have, we still do it through Zoom. We only have these channels to talk about now, whereas it tended to be tagged on at the end after the stores previously.
Yeah,
that's been hugely impactful and beneficial, and just getting the detail right and getting the right products promoted and everything else, because that's all anyone's got to think about. So that's been a big benefit from this, and the big learning piece, and that we have to make sure that we apply that out once we come out of this. We still apply that kind of attention and resource to it. It's kind of shown me what's been lacking in the past. E-com's been a bolt-on to our bricks and mortar business. It will never be that again, or perceived as that again in the business. And that's what's really exciting, I think, from an organisational perspective. And in terms of delivering the growth, we've got a big warehouse that supports stores. So we're shifting it to e-com, we kind of repurpose really, really easily, because we've just got all this space, most of it not being used, because so we set our benches up miles away from each other. In fact, the guy running it said, I've been picking here for 2 hours, Paul, I've not seen anybody. So that's been kind of one kind of a bit of a benefit that we had, but that our physical warehouse space wasn't doing its main purpose, so we could spread out to do what we needed to do and still fit it within the social distancing and everything else, which is good.
I think you made a really interesting point there, Paul. I think the way you always described e-commerce historically as an extension to the bricks and mortar business, and how now actually forcing it, the only thing you can do is put that laser focus on the e-commerce business. I bet you're really not on your own in that situation, where actually the time and the dedication you can now put into it has really been refreshing. And as I say, you probably won't run the business in the same way ever again. That's good to hear.
Yeah, and I think the fact that people are seeing results, because they're focused on it, they're seeing results. Obviously, the market has improved as well, so that it creates a virtuous circle and virtual. It creates it feeds success, doesn't it? So it buys the engagement into it, because they can see the results, and so that won't go away, I don't think.
yeah.
Fantastic. And how about you, Shelley? Anything that's caught you pleasantly by surprise?
Yeah, I think we almost mirror what Paul has found as well. You know, we have been quite a traditional business last year. You know, we did put that focus on the D2C with Venture Forge and also Amazon. So there's been, I guess, a couple of surprises and a couple of benefits in there. Obviously, you know, the Amazon partnership that we have, just doubling down. Okay, let's just get this done, as opposed to scaling that over 6 months. Let's get it done, and the products that we have done that on, we're seeing that coming through. So, and obviously going over onto a seller model has been of great benefit. So, I mean, that's one area that the intention to buy is there on Amazon, whether they know our brand or don't know our brand. It's opening us up to people that we potentially would never come across, especially from a UK perspective. So Amazon's 40% up, which is great and growing. our own D2C websites, again, similar to Paul, just that absolute focus. Okay, we know there's no revenue that is almost guaranteed to come in from anywhere else right now other than D2C. So like Julie said, we have focused on our digital assets. We have so much content that we actually haven't really been using. Just putting focus on, okay, what are we going to do here? Putting focus on our social channels and our Facebook advertising. But again, you know, it comes back down to that focus, and what that has led to is, okay, so the conversion on our current Skinnition website is shocking. There's clearly issues, and obviously we've embarked now on, right, let's just get on with this. That again, we just may not have prioritized to bring that in to this quarter of the year. You know, that was probably a quarter 3 thing. But again, it's getting the attention that, again, it just wouldn't have got before. So I think that and also really looking very closely at our flows and all of our customer data across all channels, actually, for customer data, that we have so much. We're getting tidy up exercises done there, and again, just getting that ready to go forward. With regards to the warehouse, etc., we have that all in place here anyway, so that wasn't really such a big shift for us. I guess the biggest shift in our thinking is probably, well, actually we can do seller fulfill prime from here that we would never have considered before. You know, we have people here, we have the stock here, we have a big enough warehouse to be able to do that. I think the only balance that probably what I'm seeing is that the cost of servicing this is obviously greater than sending pallet loads or box loads out through the door. So there's a bit of an equation in that to consider as well, that the costs are higher to send 1 or 2 bottles of tan out than it would be to be supplying in bulk, you know.
I guess if I was to summarise that, it feels like you've almost all had the time now to focus more on e-commerce, but equally the flip side of that is you've almost been forced to have the time to focus on it because that's the part of the business that's been left open and that's giving you the opportunity to keep trading and grow. With online sales at the moment, they're said to reflect more like 25 to 30% of all retail sales. I think across the sector that there's been that huge growth, whereas previously they were around 10 to 15%, you know, depending on which sector you were in. What do you think that will look like post-lockdown? Do you think they'll stay at 25, 30% of retail? Do you think they'll retreat all the way back to 10s and 15s? Or do you think there's been a seismic shift in retail now and it's not going to go back as far as it happened in the past?
I don't quite, sorry, Julie.
There you go.
I don't really quite understand the number. I mean, it clearly can't say at 20, 30%. I'm not sure what that number comes from, what it relates to, given that all the shops are closed. So I guess they're talking about all retail, which must include food and everything else. So it's not a very useful figure. You really need to break it down into take away essential spend and just what the word is now. I can't think of the word. But anyway, the discretionary spend. Sorry, yeah. So yeah. It's the discretionary spend proportion, I guess, is nearly 100%. You know, so the answer is no. It won't be at those levels. It can't be, can it? Otherwise, once the shop's open, they're going to take market share, and fairly significant market share. So the number will come down, but the numbers doesn't mean very much. I don't think, doesn't tell you very much at the moment.
I suppose maybe to phrase it a slightly different way than you, Julie, you said there that your kind of online is around 10% of your business, and we know that that's significantly grown because your other parts of the business have been effectively put on hold through retail. But do you think your online business will stay at its current turnover levels when retail opens back up, or do you think that it will go back to where it was before?
No, I think it can only grow. It really can. I think for lots of reasons. I think what it's done is accelerated, for us as a business, it's accelerated our focus on e-commerce, and therefore it will accelerate our priority of investment in e-commerce. We can see that there's real opportunity there, but I think it's accelerated people's ability to buy too on e-commerce. I think just need to look at China, and like 1 billion of the 1.3 billion are now online. You know, people have had to go online more because there wasn't any option, and so therefore it's increased skill sets and it's increased people's comfort, I think, with buying online. So for us, I definitely think we're only scratching the surface, but I think that's probably common across most sectors, I would say. So yeah, no, you can only see growth. And for us too, there's 3 things that happened about the COVID-19 from China as an example. So one is that lots of people are online, 1 billion people. The other is that there's a baby boom. So that's hopefully coming to clear up. So hopefully that'll help us. But also there's a increase in divorce rate. So that's one that might not help us, but might help others.
That'll help because everyone has to buy 2 of everything. Both sides have to buy something, don't they?
So you're both now predicting a retail boom just for 2 very different reasons. Excellent. I think it's interesting what you said about the new learned behaviours. My mother-in-law doesn't buy online at all. She's never shopped online, but she's now buying groceries from online because she needs to shield her partner. He can't be out and about. So she's now a very comfortable, competent online supermarket shopper. She's now very competent, what I'd class as a social shopper. So she's buying off local online retailers that sell meat and veg packs via Facebook and via online ordering. She wouldn't even entertain that in the past, and that's starting to open up demographic that can now buy online. I know my family's buying behaviours have changed. It's pretty much normally an Amazon parcel coming to our house every couple of days. I think we're getting 2 or 3 deliveries a day at the moment, and it's not really discretionary spend. It's life's essentials that we're now turning to online retailers for because we're trying to keep the family away from shops.
Yeah, I do think there's a bit in there that's not just for everyone. Not everyone's going to get a huge increase. I think there's got to be a trust and a safety and health related. So there's a bit of a disruption in all sectors because people have got a fear because of COVID. But so I think they want to be able to trust that what they're buying is the right thing. And the more we can get it to them on time, get them the right quality, then they'll rebuy, So I think it's for those who do the right thing for brands,
Yeah. I think our industry actually maybe differs slightly because you take skincare, for example, or even spray tanning, they're hands-on services within salons. So you can't purchase that online. And I mean, I don't know about anybody else, but their hairdresser or going to get a pedicure. I mean, I just can't wait to get back into a salon to actually relax, some me time. So I think there's this thing where, that is what people want to do. They want to spend a bit, and actually mental and health and well-being, they actually realize they've got to spend a little bit more time on themselves as well. So I do think there's growth opportunities and new customer opportunities and more brand awareness for us more than anything. Some of that will go back into salons or go back into retail. But I think the main change there will be that our salons or our retailers will now be looking at e-commerce as an option as well. So e-commerce is there, but even the use of social and online consultations that people actually don't have to come into the salon. I mean, they just would never have done that before, whereas they are doing that kind of thing now. So it's going to be really interesting, but I do think the growth on Amazon is there in particular. And actually also we deal with third-party websites, so the likes of Feed Unique, the Hut Group, All Beauty, that kind of thing. And their growth is massive for us right now. And I don't see that falling away.
Mm-hmm.
So that destination store, I don't see that falling away.
How about major retailers? Just think about this growth of online that everybody's been seeing. Do you think major retailers, I know you're all kind of exposed to that in different ways, but do you see some of these retailers retreating from the high street, using this as an opportunity to fundamentally reshape their online to offline mix, their omni-channel proposition? What do you think will happen there?
Oh, that'll be the high street and the retail landscape is changed literally forever. I mean, this has just escalated or accelerated a process that was already happening. I think there's still a place for bricks and mortar retailer. People still do like to go shopping, but what's been happening is that they like to go shopping in decent. They want an experience. I hate the term experiential because everyone uses it, but they want to have a good time. They want to go to a place that's nice, a good environment, and stores that offer something to them. And this will accelerate that process. There's got to be a reason to go physical shopping, and so you will see a continued polarization to the key core shopping centres are great places to go. And I think that's going to accelerate this. So, you know, it'll accelerate the demise of tertiary and secondary retail space for sure. But in terms of the whole kind of retail landscape, the relationship between landlord and tenant is going to change forever. There's the whole cost base has just got to change because it's unsustainable at the moment. And landlords are beginning to realise that now. So the long-term effects, I think, of this is going to be difficult to really understand how it's all going to pan out, because part of the current structure where you sign a long-term lease and someone builds a shopping centre that's going to last for years and gets people to sign for 10 years in the scheme, that's what kind of drives investment and drives these shiny, sexy schemes. Once that goes away and you get what we call a more dynamic commercial arrangement, then where does that long-term investment come from? It all depends how well that kind of change can be managed. And certainly in terms of retailers, because you can't really commit to a big scale investment if you're only on a short-term lease. So it kind of works both ways. So I think it's very complicated what's going to happen. There's no question now that landlords who would not talk to us about any kind of change in rental profiles, that kind of stuff, they're talking now, trust me. They really are, because they know that with a shopping centre with voids in it, it's going to do them no good at all. So it's very complicated what's going to happen. I think for sure behaviour has changed for good. Like everyone's saying, e-commerce growth has taken a step change, and that's not going to go. I still think you'll find it'll come off that peak a little bit. People will go back out shopping again. But it's not going to go back to previous levels. It's definitely taken a big leap forward. So it'll be really interesting to see how that pans out. And yes, retailers will reduce their store portfolios for sure. It'll be in the prime schemes. Part of it will be part of their branding piece. But yes, retailers will work with less physical stores.
Yeah, I was actually reading something last night that had said, especially in beauty and cosmetics, the online high street stores are now actually going to have to define what they're about. You know, they just can't be there. That they need to define what they're about and why you would go in.
Yeah. And
you know, for opening up, that looks like a lot of in-store only offers to get them to come back into the store. So I think that actually is a positive for our industry in particular, that you know, the Debenhams, the House of Frasers, etc., that have all been struggling are actually going to have to define themselves and differentiate themselves, as opposed to just having lots and lots and lots.
Mm-hmm. I definitely think there's still an essential part that they play, the physical bricks and mortar stores. It's just the winners are going to be the ones that, as you say, Paul, that are the experiential ones, the ones that actually can provide a reason to go. And I think there's going to be such a greying of experience from online to store, you know, the click and collects and the way in which that you can have that experience with someone online, but you can also have a better experience in store, but it links together. I think that's going to be more important for retailers as they go forward. But it's a challenging time.
I think when you don't know what you want, is bricks and mortar kind of works really well. So for someone like us, our stores actually tend to work better than our e-commerce kind of gifting times, because you go into a store, you've got like 1,500 lines there. You don't know what you're looking for. You can actually more effectively shop in that environment than online, where you haven't really got an idea of what you want. So they kind of work, and I think stores that offer that kind of discovery, we call it discovery and engagement, is how we define our experience. Nothing too fancy, but that's what we say. It's a limited experience, if you like, but it's something we think we can deliver on, and we demonstrate items and all those kind of things. Mm-hmm. You can replicate some of that online with video and all that kind of additional content, but I think there is a place for it. I think people do like to go out and they do like to do things, but they want to go somewhere where it's fun and it's fun to be, or more convenient than e-com. It has to offer something
different.
It isn't just a worse experience than you get online, which is what a lot of retailers unfortunately tend to offer.
I think to be fair, Paul, I think you've got that right with your business. I know when I've walked past some of your shops in the past, I deliberately try and avoid them, because I know if I walk into them that I'm going to end up spending something. I walk in looking, It's that kind of stuff. It's almost a magnet that when you get in there, I don't know why I went in, but I walk out with something because you've got such a range that kind of tickles my kind of curiosity. It always costs me money. So you've done a good job of that. I think that might stand you in good stead for when the shops open back up.
It is kind of the idea that I didn't know that thing existed, and now I want it. I mean, that's kind of what we're there to do, really.
Yeah, it's a perfect retailer to get me in to say, yeah, well done, Paul.
Thank you.
So I think the summary of that, what I'm hearing really is, I started off by asking about how's that online mix shifted, but I think what the message I'm taking here is, yes, it has, but in reality what's happened is that retail change and the online change has really just stepped on 2 or 3 years. It's what was happening anyway, but the whole COVID scenario is forcing that. The high street was changing, it's just been skipped on 2-3 years. And the online space has been forced to skip on at the same rate for quite different reasons, but ultimately COVID has just been the big trigger of that.
I absolutely agree with that. It's escalated what was already, the pattern was already happened, but hugely.
I think if I can just move on a little bit to talk about marketplaces. I know you've all got involvement in marketplaces, Amazon and others in various ways. Can I just ask each of you, how have you found those channels to perform for you over the last few weeks throughout COVID? I'm guessing you've all seen your good growth through those channels. Would you mind just sharing a little bit of what that's looked like?
Yeah, I can go. So obviously we changed to a seller model about this time last year, and that has been following through. We were on vendor, we had different sellers on there. So I would say it's probably taken a year to clean that up. And I'm glad that we're a year down the line with that than starting that now. But yeah, so yeah, month on month, we're 40% up. Now again, some of that is perhaps the timing of the year as well. For us, tanning is obviously March through to July. That's our tanning season. However, all of our brands are on there. Tantastic had no present whatsoever. That's coming through, and Skinnition as well. So even though we're not quite there with all the Skinnition listings, we actually are starting to see that trickle through. But again, everything that we're doing online, socially, e-commerce wise, anything else that we're doing is obviously helping that as well. So yeah, for us, I do expect that growth to be 30, 40, 50% month on month going forward.
How about you, Julie and Paul? I know you've both got different bits going on Amazon. Have you found the same scenario?
Yeah, obviously we started working with you guys just in March, and we've been on Amazon for 3 years more, but we've actually just trickled away. And it's funny, Amazon's not really grown for us, and we've tried all sorts of different things. But actually now we're working with a full service partner like yourselves, and we're going right down to the nitty gritty, back to the basics of every single product, and putting it up there in a way that displays what the products can do, like you're feeling and touching it, but with our new digital assets and the way in which we're describing it, and also all of the keywords, etc. And the difference is unbelievable. And we've got about 250 SKUs. I think we're only probably about 80 that are now up on Amazon, but we're up about 200% just in the last 2 months. I mean, amazing. It's fantastic to see. And as a result, we're getting our Trustpilot reviews. We're at 5-star anyway, but now we've doubled our Trustpilot reviews. More and more individuals are getting our products. So actually, Amazon has been an amazing thing for us, an amazing result for us. And it's only the start. Our plan is to obviously extend the UK Amazon, and then to scale that up, learn from that, and then repeat in different markets. So we're going into Europe in the next couple of months, and then into North America early next year, and then over into Asia. So it's just a huge opportunity that we can see if you do it right. And I think we're a great case study, and you can be on it but not really grow on it.
I feel like I've gone the wrong way around the table here, because it looks like I've deliberately set this up by asking the 2 Venture Forge clients first on Amazon services how we've done. But Paul, we don't work with you on the Amazon side of things. How have you found Amazon over this COVID period?
Yeah, we have grown on Amazon. Amazon had traditionally been much more successful for us than our own website. It kind of fits in with our trading philosophy, and we have seen growth during this period, about 60% growth like for like. In the UK, it's actually more than doubled, but it's suffered a bit because we do trade in Germany, France, Spain, and Italy. And funnily enough, Germany is the one that suffered the most. That's part of that's due with, I think, Amazon restrictions in delivery and supply and all that kind of stuff. So that's impinged a little bit, but it's still been a very good growth area for us, but from a pretty kind of high base. Also issues with Amazon. I don't know if you've seen some of their delivery times extended in the early part of this crisis. Getting stock into them was difficult as well. Although we supplemented that because we did, I don't know if you guys do FBA, but we do FBA. That's how we support Amazon. The best way of getting your listings high up there and getting in the buy box is to be on FBA. But we supplemented that by doing merchant fulfilled as well. So if we can't get the stock in, we put it on merchant so we can switch between the two. So yeah, it's been good. It's been growth. You know, so if I was looking at 6% growth, even with the problems in Germany, with pre-COVID, I thought that'd be absolutely amazing. I'm kind of disappointed given what we see on our own website, but not really. I mean, it's actually our own website's now overtaken Amazon, but it's still a very important part of the business. We do see it as a really good viable marketplace for us to use. You know, people resist it, but I think it's almost its own ecosystem. People who shop on Amazon tend to shop on Amazon. That's kind of where they go. And I don't know if Shelley and Julie had a similar kind of view that it is complementary to your own web business rather than direct. I mean, it must compete. There is some crossover. We know they do compete on AdWords and stuff like that, but it's almost like its own ecosystem to some extent. Yeah. So to not trade on Amazon, I think, is always a big mistake.
I think one thing you mentioned there, Paul, I was going to come on to, maybe just to set the scene a little bit, that kind of at the beginning of COVID, Amazon heavily restricted what they would and wouldn't take into their warehouse, and then also heavily restricted their own lead times to getting goods out to customers. Yeah. So we found that almost the perfect storm for all of our clients. You've got this huge opportunity coming in where retail shut down and online is growing, and Amazon gives that great opportunity. But at the same time, Amazon almost effectively shut the doors and said, if you're new, we don't want to deal with you. If you're existing, we're restricting what you can do. And if you're existing and want to launch a new product, best of luck with that. And I know that's posed quite big challenges to you, Shelley and Julie, as we were starting to get you up and running. But would you mind sharing a little bit about how you've dealt with that? I know, Shelley, you said earlier on about seller fulfilled prime. It forced you to look at how can you do Amazon, but from your own warehouse?
Yeah, we actually weren't too bad. There was only a couple of items that went out of stock because we had so much stock in Amazon. So actually literally the very week that it opened up again was we were maybe only out of stock for about a week. And we can very quickly, all the stock is here, so we can very quickly turn that around and send it in. So from that perspective, it wasn't too bad. But again, we have definitely seen the increase in the merchant fulfilled. So again, like Paul, we have both listings there, and we can fulfill from here very, very, very easily. And April, that was definitely up. However, yeah, it's forced us to think about seller fulfilled prime, that actually maybe we don't need to send it all in whenever we're doing that from here. And if all the systems are set up for the e-commerce platforms anyway, then Amazon can come in on the back of that with regards to shipping and drop shipping and all your couriers, etc. So there's still probably a little bit of work and consideration just around, if we do that from here, what does it mean that we can't do, as opposed to adding more cost in there to be able to do it. And I think that, that's the challenge, but right now we have capacity to do it. So it's definitely something that we will be looking at. And like I think Julie, you had mentioned, the other European countries is again something that was probably in the back burner towards the end of the year. But actually, if there's opportunity, coming July, August time, then we'll probably bring that forward again.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I mean, we weren't affected too badly. It was probably about 50% of our SKUs, but then it changed. So what we did was just kept nimble, really. We've got the stock here too, so we were, just really looking at what was open, and when it was open, got things in, even at low numbers. But it seems to be rising now, I guess, because we're a baby brand. The baby products are still babies being born and lots of teething babies out there. So we're definitely finding that some of the key products are lifting. And I hope they do, because we've got 2 new products being launched in June. So we really want to make sure we get them out onto Amazon. So that's important.
But Paul, you said something in your kind of opening comment about Amazon, that brands and retailers sometimes seem nervous about adopting Amazon and kind of whether to face into it as a strategy. Do you all think that will change now post-COVID? Do you think more brands will be more open to launching on Amazon and treating it as a completely separate sales channel?
I think so. As I said, you know, the feedback from a lot of people lately that I've been talking to is that they are trying to push towards Amazon, and also you know, your destination websites, your free uniques, your hub group, etc., because that's where the traffic is. And yeah, I do think people will be more open to it. You can see definitely, I mean, we have had the conversation many times, Andy, is this not taken away from our D2C? Is this, but I actually think it's a completely different shopper, and actually it opens your brand up to people that would never be exposed to your brand, and the intent to buy is on Amazon. So yeah, I think it's very important to be there. Now it is quite an expensive model, so you do have to look at the numbers and get that right. But certainly from a growth and allowing you to expand internationally, it probably just gives you that foot up and quickens that process up more than anything, for us anyway.
I mean, one advantage of Amazon FBA in particular, it can be expensive, but it's a very predictable model. You can work out exactly what every sale's going to cost you when it's on FBA. With merchant, it becomes more difficult because you've got your own pick and pack and delivery and everything else. But one thing about Amazon that we like is we know what every sale costs us. I mean, we do competitive price matching where we've got product that is not that other people are selling as well. And we just run it all off of a matrix, and that we have a minimum price will go down to and a minimum margin will work to. And it's very predictable. You know what it's going to cost you, and that's one of the big pluses about it. And the variable is getting the stock in the first place. But once it's there, you know you can pretty well predict what that sale's going to cost.
One thing we've learned our experience with Amazon is to take control, or to keep control, especially with traditional models with distributors all around the world. You know, one of our biggest challenges now is that we let some of our distributors sell on Amazon in international markets, and then we're bringing that back in because it makes sense. We can then manage it. We can manage how the brand is communicated. We can manage price. We can hopefully manage more effectively, and that's been a real challenge. So anyone who's starting, keep control of your Amazon internationally as well, because it can really affect everything.
Yeah. Make sure you're a brand owner, because you can get that registered with Amazon as a brand owner, and then you can control who lists against your listing. That's the point.
Yes, it's not just about the sales volume and protecting the online channel. I suppose some of that, Julie, is about making sure the brand is perceived in the right way online to support your retail sales alongside it with kind of the retailers that buy from you in bulk.
And also they end up driving the price down.
Yeah.
Excellent. I think just moving on a little bit from marketplace, I wouldn't mind just asking a few questions about kind of the overall business culture and retail overall. You know, what do you each think that your business will look like after the 15th of June, or 15th of June in England at least, when retail starts to open back up? Will you still be working from home? Will you be back to the office? Are you expecting your shops to open back all of a sudden, Paul? You know, what do you think that looks like from a people and a business perspective?
Right, number one, we're not opening our shops on the 15th of June. I've got none planned to open on the 15th of June. Our first openings are planned for the first week of July. I'm happy to let other people open their stores. Let's see how it works. I'll do a bit of comparison, see how other people are doing. We're not being put under pressure by shopping centres to open straight away, to be honest with you. You know, I just don't anticipate there'll be huge volumes, and if there are, well, fine. We'll just miss a couple of weeks. I'm not even slightly bothered about it, to be honest. At the moment, the support we're getting, you know, is working massively in our favour, to be honest, and we need to take advantage of that because, you know, we've got to survive as a business. That's a huge pressure on us, this whole kind of property piece, huge. So all of our team are on furlough at the moment, and they can remain on furlough. We've got the no rates to pay. We've negotiated rental holidays on or certainly deferments and stuff on the leases. So for us, we're not in a rush to open. We never make money this time of year in our bricks and mortar stores anyway, so there's no rush. So we're not the trailblazers. Let's see what happens. Let's see how the high street responds, how people respond to going out in the high street, and then we'll follow. We'll test with about half a dozen stores the first week of July, then a second tranche, second or third week, and our plan is to probably roll out the stores during August as things normalise. And that's our plan at the moment. If we may be put under pressure by landlords to open earlier than that, in which case we'll respond, and we are ready to do it. I've got all my plans in place. We could move very quickly, but that's our approach. Extremely cautious. I don't anticipate people rushing back to the stores, and certainly to our stores. And at the moment, we've got the income coming through on the online piece, so I think it makes much more sense to tread a very soft line.
It feels very, very commercially prudent and almost what I'd call a test and learn approach. You've got the opportunity to step into this, see what happens, and accelerate the plan if it looks fantastic, safe and profitable and economically viable. If not, hold that plan back and then do it at the right time.
Yeah.
How about you, Shelley and Jill? What do you think things look like in your business? Are you expecting the staff to come flooding back in a couple of weeks? Do you think you'll be working from home? You know, I mean, I've had some great conference calls with your guys working from every corner of their home and kind of. You know, do you think that will continue?
Yeah, I do. There's certainly a certain element that, you know, for me, and we talked about this earlier about the challenges of, you know, you end up doing a full day of calls online to actually get something done. But for our team, obviously a lot have are going to have childcare issues. The real issue for us here is that our government haven't actually give us any time frames of when things are going to open. So we're kind of stuck between the UK time frames and the Irish time frames. But we are in limbo because our government have said, no, well, we're not giving specific dates because then people, you know, will open up. But what they're actually doing is say today, oh yes, so you can open on Monday, which isn't giving people the time to prepare. So I do think a lot of our salons in particular, there's a sentiment that they're not actually ready to come back yet. They're not ready to put themselves in that position to do treatments, etc. Now there's other people, there's a survey from Professional Beauty in the UK that 75% of salons in the UK are ready to open and they're prepared. So I think you guys are opening on the 4th of July and the Irish government is the 20th of July. So we're in between there somewhere, or in and around there. So what that means for my team, I mean, until the salons are open and up and running, will they want to see us? I don't know. Are they going to have time to see us? I don't know. Certainly I don't think they're going to want us visiting their salons. I mean, you can't just pop in anymore. You have to make an appointment, etc. So that's our challenge from a salon perspective, from a retail pharmacy perspective. Again, they're all just very cautious of, well, we don't know when the footfall is going to come back into store, so we don't know what that actually looks like. So again, it's kind of up in the air for us from that perspective. And our international distributors, to be fair, from the end of April through to now, have actually been opening up. So Europe is more or less 2 or 3 weeks ahead of us, and they're just getting back into stores. They're just getting their teams back up and running. So there's learnings that we can have there, but it's either going to bounce back or it's just going to be a slow trickle. But I think one of the biggest issues for us is childcare. You know, we're mostly female, and yeah, it's a tough one.
Mm-hmm. Very similar for us in terms of our team. I mean, we're in Scotland. I think that we're not opening up till after the 15th. I think early August, early July. I think so, 2 weeks behind maybe. But we're waiting to hear. But I think for us, yeah, a lot of our team are female, but even the males in our team have got families, and I think childcare is an issue because we do need people back now. We've got quite a few on furlough, so we need to get them back off furlough, and we need to get things moving because actually we're starting to see green shoots. Our Asian markets are really starting to grow. Our production's starting to come up in the UK and internationally. So what we need to do is to get people back in so we can get all the orders organised and out, and to launch our 2 new products. But with the shape and structure of our office, it's actually not feasible to have everyone in at the same time. So we're going to have a really effective plan of kind of people working from home for some of the time, knowing the limits of what people can work full-time. People can't work full-time anymore because of childcare. So what do they want to work? What do we need them to work? And where's the gap, I guess? And we're just doing a lot of that planning now as things start to move again. For our retailers, so much as Scotland's not opening up, in England, obviously John Lewis and some of our big retailers we're starting to see more orders coming out of our retailers now, which is great, in preparation, I guess, for opening and for online. So we're getting plans in place for that and to get things out. But it's just going to be a real trial and error, I think, and you know, much as we've got all the gels and the masks and people need them, and you know, actually it'll be, what does it look like? What does it feel like for people? How comfortable do they feel? And can they leave home to do it? And how often? So yeah, I think all of us are going to be learning over the next wee while.
So do you think it's highly unlikely that in the next 6 months we'll be back to full physical working together again? You know, does remote working, video calls, Zoom meetings like this really look like a big part of the next few months of your businesses?
I think so. I think you would be reticent to travel as much as well. I mean, we used to do lots of meetings in London and things, but actually with Zoom and Google Hangouts, you know, be reticent to pay for flights now and go on a flight now. But I think, yeah, this and our team, I think we're quite a close-knit team, and I think it'd be great for us all to be together and have a glass in hand. I'm looking forward to a good social evening with everybody. But even in the office, you pick up a lot that you don't pick up when we're isolated like this.
Yeah, it's tough. I think we're the same now. We actually have 2 floors, so we're quite lucky. We have the space to very easily socially distance in here, so I'm not worried about that at all for the team. I think the biggest challenge, as I said, is childcare, but also vulnerable people. So there's some people in the team with asthma, or some people, kids with asthma, that really are very fearful about coming back physically into work. And you know, I think it's different because I've had to be here for the online orders, etc., and picking that up. So for me, my life hasn't really changed that much because my husband's been furloughed, so he's been at home with the kids. So I think there's the fear factor of coming back to work as well. And you're right, Julia, it will be trial and error, but you know, how do we get people back to work that they feel safe and confident? Because like you, we're getting to the stage, well, actually, we need to get on with some of this. And it's, you know, it is quite difficult to do it all remotely. I think there has to be a happy medium. I do think, you know, customer meetings or flying anywhere, or even I think the openness to just saying, actually, are you there? Sure, we'll just jump onto Teams, or we'll just jump onto Zoom now. Where before, I think it probably felt a wee bit more like, well, we have to set up this conference call and we'll do it tomorrow. Whereas now everybody's just saying, are you there? Sure, we'll jump on now. And I think that's the real change, one for the team, but also from customers, suppliers, everything. I think it will open that up, and it will become much more effective from that perspective.
How have you found upskilling the people in the business, Shelley? I think there's been 2 massive shifts, and Paul, you alluded to this earlier. So there's one big shift in how you work. You now work digitally because you can't work physically. And Paul, you shared that in your business there's now this laser focus with everybody looking purely at the e-commerce business. You know, how do you upskill a team to work better in digital channels and work better through digital technology? Do you think there's enough support out there for that?
Well, I have to say, this has taken by surprise. I thought we had basically had to decamp from the office, be at home. You know, from one week we're in the office, next week everyone's working from home, and I thought it would be impossible, and it's just been amazing. We use Slack, which has worked really well. Set up at different groups, and it has been a revelation to me actually how well it's worked. It really has been. I just finding, you know, the team, we did follow a few people, but the core team is still there, and how well they've worked together in this environment has really, really surprised me. I mean, there are still challenges. We would like to be together in the office. So there are some people that are loving it, I have to say, loving working from home, finding it more effective and getting more done. But I will have to say it has not been a massive issue. It really hasn't been a massive issue in terms of getting things done and making things happen, to my absolute astonishment.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe how well it has worked. I would have thought it'd be impossible. But no, it hasn't. It's just, we have meetings, and now it's just kind of like the new normal, sharing spreadsheets, doing reviews, range reviews, planning. It's just the way it works now. And some things it's done actually, it's made things better, because we have a slightly more formalised kick-off meetings in the morning or the beginning of the week, like what the plans, because you're kind of working remotely. You have to get together and you have to talk about things and plan things and review things in a slightly more formalised way. Well, that's what's happened as a result of this, and that's actually made us work more effectively as well. So yes, the plans are to go back to the office. I think we will benefit from it, especially as we move into our peak trading season. I think it will become more important once there's more activity happening. As Julie's saying, once more stuff starts to go on, I think it'll start to become a little bit more difficult to perhaps work the way we are doing. But it has been much less of a problem than originally thought. And I think the other thing about meetings and flights, stuff like that, again, I think this is going to be a permanent change. I don't know if you agree, Julie, but a lot of meetings will be done like this now. They just will. And overseas, some of the overseas travels and journeys that we do, I think a lot of that's going to cut back as well. I think there'll be some permanent changes here, I think. It's hard to predict.
More confident, aren't they? More confident to have this conversation, and in this way, it feels comfortable, and it feels like you are speaking to people, instead of getting on a flight.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's staring at you, which is slightly different, but once you get used to it,
ignore that.
Yeah.
I think we've even seen that in our conference calls in the business. The first Zoom calls in the first few weeks always started off with, can you see me? Is my camera on? Can you hear me? Is everything okay? And over the last 4 to 8 to 12 weeks, you've just seen that confidence in people build, where it's, shall we jump on a call? Yep, we're on, we're chatting, job done. And coming to see you, Shelley, was a full day trip. It was a flight, it was a hotel, it was coming around. Probably the same with you, Julie, as well, coming up to Scotland. And actually we can do a lot more there now, much quicker. So I think you're absolutely right, Paul. I certainly miss the face-to-face. Our early meetings, Julie, where we're meeting in the hotel over a coffee, there's something really nice about that, and I think you build better relationships. But once you're into that and you've got a relationship, I think things like this can replace some of that.
One thing that's happened as well, I've had certain meetings out with people that would have just done a telephone call, and now they've become Zoom call, because everyone's used to doing it. Should we do a Zoom? So actually, to some extent, some communications are getting more personal. So I had a supply meeting yesterday, and I said, let's do it on a Zoom. We did it, and we met each other, saw each other, which would have, like I said, just been a phone call. So that actually made it a more intimate meeting and more productive than it otherwise would have been. So it works kind of both ways. It's all quite complex, or maybe not complex, nuanced.
I think just kind of moving on to kind of summarising and just wrapping up a little bit, so we've got a few questions coming in from people that are watching. I suppose before we get into those questions, I suppose one question for each of you. What is the one main thing that you've learned from the whole lockdown experience? But Paul, if we could start with you on that one, what's the big one thing you've learned from this?
I think how adaptable your teams can be. I think that's probably the biggest thing, how adaptable, and how actually when you've got good people, you can really trust them as well, maybe more than perhaps you thought you could. And you can just see it from the work that's being produced and what people are achieving without you sitting on top of them every minute of the day, without having to feel that they're there so you can see what they're doing. So I think adaptability and trust in good people.
Mine's similar too. It's definitely about the resilience of our team. I mean, it's great, the adaptability, the way that everyone has adapted, and the flexibility within that. So you can be nimble. You can pivot and change and focus on what needs to be focused on if you've got the right attitude. So, but I think that the overriding thing for me is actually to be kind to yourself, because this has been tough, especially for us as leaders, but also for everyone in the team. We're juggling different things and different demands from children and husbands and family and business. And I think one of the things is to remember to be kind to ourselves too.
Yeah. Again, more or less what Julianne Paul, focus is a main thing. If you really actually stop and focus and think about things, I think there's been a tendency to become human doings instead of human beings, and actually to stop, take the time and focus. And I think that will pay dividends going forward, and hopefully will allow us to work in a different way across the team, and as a business owner as well.
I think the other thing I'd throw on that is also that need for agility and that learning about how agile a business can actually be when it has to be. I think you made a great example there, Paul, when you talked about not really believing before the team could work from home in the capacity that it has to. Well, all of a sudden, everybody's been forced to respond to something that's thrown at everybody and had the risk to disrupt everything. And we've seen businesses that have got 4,000, 5,000 head office employees that categorically could never work from home. And within 48 hours, they're all working from home and driving a fantastic business. So I think having that level of agility in the business and that ability to respond when you have to do, I think if you can carry that through other areas of the business, you can do some phenomenal things.
Absolutely.
I think final question then, moving on to the final before we get on to the audience questions. What single piece of advice would you give to retailers whose business has been negatively affected by the recent events and are wondering where to go from here?
I think for me would be go back to the basics. What are you selling and to whom? I guess it's really getting underneath the skin of your customers and understanding what they're doing now and where they're buying and what they're going to do, and be nimble enough to focus on that, focus on what those customers are looking for and how they want to buy, and how you can make your authentic, trustworthy and nurturing experience the difference. I think it's about that. It's about really understanding who your customers are, and get online if you're not already.
Yeah, I think for me, one key thing has been, the amount of networking that you've actually been able to do, and actually just not relying on, but people seem to be very open to connections, etc., and taking that time to network. Is there anything that you can do differently? Really understanding your cost structure. Well, actually, is there stuff there that's not making money anyway? So it's about taking those decisions to really focus and stop that. And then I think for us there is a short-term and a long-term view, and I think for retailers it will probably be the same, because is it going to bounce back, or actually is it going to just be this trickle that we see coming back? And those are all of the unknowns. But what can we do to either speed something up or network or look at something new, just to cover the base there?
Okay.
Yeah, I would say be decisive and act quickly, and take all those decisions you've been thinking about and pontificating about over the last year or forever, and just do them now. And yeah, be decisive, act quickly is what I would say. And don't moan about the environment. The environment is what it is. If it's raining, it's raining. You can't do anything about it. So look at the situation we're faced with and take decisive action.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Interesting through this crisis that we've been out of control. It's been happening to us in a way. And I think where the winners are going to be those who take control, things that we can take control of, like be decisive and act quickly,
Yeah.
Anyway.
Cool. Thanks, Julie. Thanks for your answers on those, guys. We've got a few questions coming from the audience. The first one we've got in is from Jeremy Stott. Question there: have your operational partners coped okay with the increase in demand? And Jeremy's given us some examples there of your payment gateways, couriers, warehousing partners. How have you found your partners have held up in each of those areas?
We've had no operational issues, actually, I have to say, fortunately. I guess we're not big enough to create a problem for anybody.
Yeah, I mean, we have had some issues with couriers. Some of the couriers that we would use have dropped a day. A Wednesday, for example, they don't pick up on a Wednesday or deliver on a Wednesday, so there is a little bit more time lag. And actually, we have had quite a few issues with Royal Mail not delivering parcels, which has been a bit of a challenge. And we pride ourselves in 5-star customer service, and that's the frustrating part because it's out of our control. But other than that, everything else has been fine.
We're the same. It's been logistics really, and actually what it's prompted us to do is to find alternatives and look at better prices. So we've got some new couriers and new ways we can work with Royal Mail in terms of size of envelope and packaging and all the things it's given us the time to do.
Yeah.
Doesn't surprise me that couriers and logistics was the one thing that was mentioned there. With the volume now going through that network through COVID, that really doesn't surprise me. How have you found your customers have responded to that? Have they been understanding of the delay, or have they been kind of pushing problems back at you?
No, very understanding.
They're more flexible.
Yeah, I think it's one thing that we found. One thing through this situation, if this was Christmas or it was Black Friday, customers become very demanding and have high expectations. I think because of the nature of the situation, we found almost everywhere delays have been accepted, they've been understood, and businesses have been given plenty of flexibility to sort it out. Yeah,
we've found that. I mean, we haven't had a huge amount of problems, but where we have had those kind of delays, we've been absolutely let off the hook by our customers.
Good. I think we've got another question. I'll pick this one up from Jeremy as well, also kind of answering Jeremy's questions. Obviously, you've attracted more new customers through this period. What percentage of those customers do you think you'll retain in the future, or do you think a lot of those will tip back to shopping with other brands or shopping physically again?
Well, for us, we've got closer to our customer in terms of we've got much more of direct customer now, whereas we were selling through retailers or through distributors. So we've got the opportunity to communicate to make sure that 100% of them will come back for more or buy a gift for the next baby in their life. So for us, I'm hoping that we can get closer and we can collect more data and we can then communicate more directly.
Anybody else anything on that, or shall we take the next question?
Yeah, I'm exactly the same as Julie. I think we will keep some of them. I think some of them will go back to retail. But it's all about having that process in place to keep them there. And what is that difference online than what a retailer? And I think that has really come to the fore for us. Why shop? You're asking why shop on your website, and if you can fulfill that and have a point of difference there, then you're onto a winner.
We're hopeful we will take them. We don't mind where they shop. I'm ambivalent. They can come to our shops, they can shop online, they can do both. They're customers. So in our view, it's just helping to build up our customer base. So we're happy either way.
Yeah, but more of a multi-channel view on things rather than a siloed channel view. And so that leads quite nicely into a question we've got from Mike Evans. Mike's asking, our experience with 30 plus consumer electronics brands is that they rely upon strong, visible retail presence to be one of the main drivers to optimize their e-commerce sales. Have you experienced this? Do you see that retail presence that you've got for your products being a big driver and supporter of your online sales of those products?
I think it's beneficial to have both. I mean, our products are beautifully soft, and touch and feel is so important, and that's always going to be a challenge online, is to get that across. But yeah, I think, and the positioning, I think as a brand, you want to be positioned with some of the bigger retailers, and it just gives you that positioning. So if you're seen in there, they still might buy online, but I think that feel and touch and experience around that was still a requirement.
How does that work for you, Shelley? Because you've got a cosmetics product, which, if anything, it is really touchy-feely. You buy into the brand by touching and feeling it. How do you manage that online, and do you really rely upon the salon and the retail presence to drive the online business, or do you find a totally different customer buying online?
There's certainly an element of it, probably less so for tanning than skincare. You do like to touch and feel, and sampling, etc. is important. with tanning, you can now do the videos, the before and afters, you can physically see online. So actually, a lot of our retailers have moved away from the traditional stand in store, apply it on somebody's arm, and there's less of that now because online can do that for you. But I think for our salons, for example, if you're in a salon and you're having a facial and your therapist is talking to you, you buy from that person because you trust that person. So actually, it's really important to have that. And we do support sending people into our salons as well, because again, like Paul, they're a customer. As long as they're buying our brand, we don't really mind where they get it from.
Paul's quite a related question here that's coming for you. There's actually a few with your name against them, so I hope you're sitting comfortably. Question is, with in-store experience being one of your key USPs for your brand, how do you intend to replicate that in a digital environment? It's that thing you talked about walking into the store and ultimately picking something up. How do you do that online?
Well, yeah, it is one of the key challenges. And I think what we need to do is we need to have more video content. I think this is quite helpful to replicate the kind of demonstration piece. Discovery is very, very difficult, but I think increased personalization, better suggestions, better ways of leading you around the site so that you can go on more of a kind of a journey that predicts where you want to go based on what you're looking at. And those are the kind of things we're looking at to try and make people stay on the site a bit longer and have that kind of journey through the site. Which perhaps is more difficult to achieve online. So they're the things we're looking at to try and replicate as close as we can the in-store experience.
Probably quite a polarizing question. I think quite an interesting one. To every one of you, what's been the toughest decision you've had to make during lockdown? That you can share publicly. I should probably ask.
I guess the big one for everyone has been to furlough or not to furlough.
And to stay operational or not to stay operational. Are you allowed, or actually are you not? Should we have shut down? Should we not? What was priority, what wasn't? Yeah.
We've had to make some pretty tough long-term decisions around certain people in the business, which has been tough.
Yeah, it's thrown so many questions up for so many people. I think as long as you care passionately about your team, you care passionately about your business, and ultimately you want to keep all parts of that in place and keep everybody as good as you can, but then it comes down to some commercial realities. And you made some great examples earlier, Paul, that there's rent to pay, there's wages to pay, and at some point to keep the business alive, you've had to make tough decisions about who can you afford to keep on the team, who do you need to furlough to help you weather the storm and get through it. So I think from my point of view in my business, I don't think there's been any easy decision to make, because there's been repercussions of every decision that ultimately impact on the business that you care about and the people that you employ and care about and are taking on this journey with you. So I don't think I personally could single out a single decision either. I think it's been a very tough period for all, not just business owners, but everybody that's been involved in this all the way through. So looking for, we'll probably take a couple more questions and then we'll kind of bring this to a close. One question about marketplaces. We've all talked a lot about Amazon, but do you plan to expand across any additional marketplaces to give you more breadth to the market, more routes into the market, and perhaps spread your risk a little bit? Or do you think you're just going to stick with Amazon for the foreseeable future?
We're definitely going to expand that, particularly in international markets. So, the bol.com and the Allegro in different countries and things, but also even here, I think there's lots of other opportunities around eBay and other marketplaces. But what we want to do is really get it right on Amazon. Use that so we're learning from that what works. You collect all the assets, etc., that we need to get to display the brand in the way we want it to be communicated. And then let's get out there and spread to the right marketplaces.
Anybody else on that one?
I think internationally, where other marketplaces are more dominant, that we'd look there. But in the UK, we have been on eBay before. We found that very, very difficult, very, very, very labour intensive, very difficult to list. We found it, a difficult place for us to trade profitably. So in the UK, really, we're focused on Amazon, and through Europe, where it's the main channel. But we are looking at other marketplaces and other international markets where Amazon is necessarily the dominant player.
I think the final question then, a question to everybody. I think I'll open this up rather than being specifically about your business, more to look at business and retail overall. Do you think that retail and business overall is well enough equipped to push forward with the new digital offering that you're going to need as the shift has now happened? Or do you think that the skill sets within business need to really step on to face into the new e-commerce mix?
I think the latter. I think it's changing so fast, and I think this has accelerated the need. So I think the skill sets need to be, well, certainly in our business and many of the businesses we work with, I think there's this digital, the need to and look at exactly what's available. For one, there's lots of new technology that could make a huge difference online and in store, and I think it's learning that and then being able to have the skills to use it effectively.
I think, yeah, we definitely need to repurpose a lot of our team. But it's not easy to find. It really isn't easy to find the right skilled people. A lot of people have a lot of superficial knowledge, and a lot of people will don't swear, but they'll tell a story about what they know and don't know, and they can be, maybe they're used to getting through interviews with people that aren't perhaps so knowledgeable. But we've actually strengthened our team just prior to this, because it was something we saw a purpose to do. So I mean, that was a fortunate part of where in terms of timing with us. I brought on a new head of digital, who very experienced in our market, is an absolutely brilliant new marketing manager, and all that happened literally weeks before this happened. So a lot of our team was strengthened significantly at the right time. It couldn't have been better timing, frankly. But he is now seeing needs to improve skill sets in our business, particularly around CRM, where we are not managing our data as effectively as we could do, and he's an expert in that area. So I think that's the key, really, retaining customers and engaging customers and getting them to be loyal, repeat customers is an area we've really got to focus on. So I think there in particular we need to do a lot more work. Because that's the new part of the new retail, really, is that customer retention, and the lifetime value of those customers is absolutely key.
Yeah, I think the real focus for us is probably how to build that digital team, and what does that look like long term for the business versus some of the traditional roles, etc. there, because for us going forward, even our retailers, I believe, will have more of a focus on e-commerce and being able to talk to them and help them grow that side of their business and understand that. And particularly here in Northern Ireland, Andy, we've had this conversation many times. The skill set here, we probably are slightly behind the curve, but more from just not having that huge pool of people, and that's probably one of our biggest struggles throughout being based for anything in Belfast is not that huge pool of people to pull from, and getting somebody who is really conscientious and understands the brands as more than just wanting to drive e-commerce, because we are brand led as well, can be difficult.
I think that's a common challenge for everybody everywhere in the digital sector. I think there's plenty of fantastic people out there, but the demand for them far outstrips the supply. So it's one thing that I've seen across every client and every business that I've been involved all around in the last 10 to 20 years. The good digital talent, and Paul, your points are absolutely valid. People that are genuinely good talent, not just superficial talent, and know a few buzzwords or a few surface bits of information. Very, very difficult to come by, and I think that race for the right talent is only going to heat up now and become more challenging.
I agree. One thing is this new working environment means that perhaps we'd look outside of someone who's local, so that could maybe help as well. Even in Belfast, maybe you don't need someone in Belfast.
Yeah, true.
Anyway.
True.
Brilliant. Look, I'll bring things to a close there. Shelley, Julie, Paul, I appreciate your time. It's really, really valuable. Obviously, at the moment, with all this change on in each of your businesses, giving up this time is really, really appreciated. Thanks very much for sharing your experiences and your stories from the last 8 to 12 weeks. and fingers crossed that 8 to 12 weeks coming bring a lot more success for you. We get some shops back open and life starts to go back to normal. But most importantly, we all stay happy and healthy. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you to everyone who's joined us this afternoon for the last hour and a half, and apologies if we didn't get to all of your questions. We'll be sharing the video of this by the end of the week, so if there are any questions, if Venture Forge can be of any help to you whatsoever, please just drop me a line and I'll answer and help where we can do. Thanks again to everybody who's joined, and we look forward to speaking to you all soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andy.
Bye-bye, guys. Bye.
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 Nice to meet you, ladies. Cheers. Bye.